Hello, viewers. Welcome to MindMajix, your skill partner. We're back yet again with another video of Machine Learning's top 30 interview questions and answers with detailed explanation from our experts. But before that, please do subscribe to our channel for more career enhancing videos. MindMajix has got more than what you need. Check out the video's description box for the MindMajix information repository links. And don't forget, like and share if you've loved our video and comment if you've got any questions. Now, let's get started.
In this tutorial, we have to see how to prepare for a machine learning interview question. So that's why today we have to see about how to prepare for a question as well as answer whenever you are going for the machine learning interview. So let's start it with the question number one. Question number one is the what's the trade-off between bias and variance? Basically, this type of question will coming whenever you are given the interview for the machine learning. The second or third type of question will coming in this thing, like what's the trade-off between bias and variance. Also, similar way, the interviewer also asks to you like what is the bias and what is the variance. Also, they can ask like what is the difference between bias and variance. So, how you can provide the answer of this question? So, basically, first of all, you have to provide the introduction like of the bias, and then you have to ask about the what is the variance is there. So that type of answer you have to provide them. Like bias is the error due to the erroneous or the overly simplistic assumptions in the learning algorithm, whatever you are using, like whatever the algorithm you are using, and that can lead to the model underfitting your data. As well as if I'm talking about the variance, so variance is an again one type of error. So variance is an error due to too much complexity in the learning algorithm, whatever the algorithm you are using. Same way, this will lead to the algorithm being highly sensitive to high degrees of the variations in your training data. And then, first of all, still I just only provide the introduction about the what is the bias and what is the variance. But now we have to talk about what is the mainly trade-off between bias and variance. Okay, so whenever you are given this type of answers, it's not look like that you are just only provide the difference between bias and variance. You have to provide the first of all what is the bias, and then you have to ask them like what is the variance, and then you have to talk about the what is the trade-off between bias and variance. So the bias and variance is the decomposition, essentially decomposes the learning error from any algorithm by adding the bias, the variance, and a little bit of the irreducible error due to the noise in the underlying data set, or also it is called as the underfitting data set. Essentially, if you make the model more complex and more variables, you will lose the bias and the gain or at the some variance. In the order to get the optimally reduced amount of error, you will also have to trade off the bias and variance. You don't want to either high bias or high variance in your model. Similar way, you are not going with the low variance and the low bias, because whenever you are getting these high and low things at the same time, you have to face the underfitting and the overfitting. And at the end, the regularization model is the good model. That's why we have to adjust both of them. Second question is the how is KNN different from the K-means clustering? Basically, if I'm talking about the KNN, so KNN it will represent like K nearest neighbor, and it will come from the supervised learning. And at the other end, the K-means clustering, it will come from the unsupervised learning. So that is again the big difference is the unsupervised learning and the supervised learning. And at the same time, you have to just only provide the answer look like this is the critical difference here. It is that is the KNN, it's a labeled point, because KNN it's supervised learning is there, and it is the supervised learning. And while K-means doesn't require the label, because K-means clustering will represent the unlabeled data set, because it will come from the unsupervised learning. So that's why that is the difference between the KNN and K-means, because both are coming from the different types of the machine learning classification. So that's why that is the difference between that. Third question is explain how a ROC curve will work. Also, they can ask to you like what is the ROC, and when ROC will use, and what is the meaning of ROC, what is the full form of ROC. So based upon ROC, just a simple small thing are there, but based upon the ROC, they are conflicted questions, and they can ask you the many questions just based upon the just simple word of the ROC. The full form of the ROC is the receiving operating characteristics. Basically, ROC will use whenever we have to solve some classification problem from the supervised learning. Whenever we have to do some supervised learning with the classification things like where we have to implement the logistic regression algorithm, as well as we have to implement the decision tree, random forest, support vector machine. Whenever we have to do this type of algorithm, and then we are also able to implement the ROC curve as well as receiving operating characteristics. So let's see what is the ROC and how you can define the ROC. Basically, this type of question is looks very basic. So that the same time, whenever you are asked, you are telling to answer of this one. So simply you can just only describe about the what is the x-axis and what is the y-axis and how it can represent. Okay, so don't go with very depth whenever you can provide this type of answer like. If they can ask you explain how ROC will work, so you can give simple answer like ROC curve is a graphical representation of the contrast between true positive rates and false positive rates at the various thresholds. This is the simple answer. Is this also if you can see in the presentation? So here I also provide some more explanation, but that is not necessary in the interview. Okay, so that's why you can just provide some basic answer like ROC curve is the graphical representation of the contrast between true positive rates and the false positive rates as the various thresholds. When you are providing this type of these ROC answers, never open the concept regarding the AOC or the AUC area under curve. Because if they want to learn, if they want to ask about the AUC, they can make it separate question. But in your ROC definition, never discuss about the AUC. Fourth question is the what is the Bayes theorem and how is it useful in a machine learning context? Basically, Navy Bayes algorithm or the Navy Bayes theorem is very important whenever you can go for the machine learning interview. Okay, so before going to machine learning, I recommend like you can go with the proper concept with the Navy Bayes theorem because Navy Bayes is a very important part is that because whenever the interviewer will take on your interview at the same time they are also taking some more person as well as interviews. Okay, so they are known like the some of the participants are not good with the Navy Bayes theorem. So that's why Navy Bayes theorem is very important theorem or the very important algorithm whenever you are going for the machine learning interview. So let's concern about the question like what is the Navy Bayes theorem or the Bayes theorem. Basically, the Navy Bayes comes from the Bayes theorem that is it comes from the mathematics. So that's why and how it is useful in machine learning context or the machine learning terminology or the machine learning technology. So you have to give some justified answer because this type of question will define like you can get the job or you are not getting the job because it is a very important question and very baseful question is that. So you can give the answer like that like Bayes theorem gives you the posterior probability of an event given what is the known as the prior knowledge because prior knowledge is the main thing is there and if you can see the question on a if you can see the equation on a left hand side so you can get the idea posterior probability is there, likelihood is there and prior probability is there. So based upon that like mathematically it is expressed as the true positive rate of the condition sample divided by the sum of the false positive rate of the population and the true positive rate of the condition. So that's how you can define the answer. Also, in the presentation, I will show the one example. And based upon this type of example, you can also given to them. Also, there is one more example is like that the Bayes theorem is the basis behind the branch of the machine learning, and that most notably includes the Navy Bayes classifier. And that's something important to consider when you have faced the machine learning interview question. So Navy Bayes are having their own justification is there. That's why this question is very important question in the machine learning interview. So this is the question number 5. Why Navy Bayes is Navy? So again, I already told you in previous question like the Navy Bayes is a very important algorithm or very important concept as respect to the machine learning interview. So that's why this is the question is why Navy Bayes it's Navy. So what is the importance of the Navy word? So despite its practical application and especially in text mining, Navy Bayes is considered as a Navy because it makes an assumption that is virtually impossible to see in real. For example, you can see whenever you are given this type of interview, so at the same time you are trying to provide some more examples so they can understand like you are comfortable with the concept like that. Okay, so you can also give it example like you can also understand a Navy by classifier that figured out that you can like the pickles and the ice cream, but would you probably navily recommend you like a pickle ice cream? Okay, so you like the both things, pickle and ice cream, both you are like but if you can given the ice cream with the pickle flavor, so that will look different. So that is called as why Navy Bayes is the Navy. So that is the importance of this. question. Question number 6. What's your favorite algorithm and can you explain it to me in a less than 1 minute? So it is again important question. This type of question they are not asking in a starting phase of the interview. This type of question again they can ask to you in the last phase of the interview, because once they can satisfied, or once if they can, they are also not satisfied, but if the some type of interest they are making in your profile, so that's why they are asking you this type of question, like what is your favorite algorithm and can you explain it to me within less than 1 minute. So here also the less than 1 minute will play a major role in this interview, because also sometimes they are only asking to you like what is your favorite algorithm, and you have to provide someone name of the algorithm, and then ask, and then after then they can ask to you more about that algorithm. Basically in the interview this type of question will test your understanding of how to communicate the complex and also the technical nonsense with the boys, and also the ability to summarize quickly and efficiently, because they are also providing you sometimes time like 1 minute. So if you whatever the algorithm you can select, like basically or easily algorithm if you can select, so it will not explain within 1 minute. Okay, it was very difficult. Okay, so that's why if they can ask you to 1 minute, so you can take a very basic algorithm. Never you can take it like a support vector machine or random forest, because that type of algorithm you are not able to explain within 1 minute, because if within 1 minute if you want to try to cover like a basic thing, but still it will not complete within 1 minute. So that's why they are play with your brain and logically like how you can provide the answer. So these all type of things are working whenever you can provide this type of answer. So make sure you have a choice and make sure you can explain the different algorithms so simply and effectively that a 5-year-old could grasp the basics. Like means 5-year-old, if they if in interview are coming like around 5 years, so you have to provide the answer looks like very basically. So it will not create any type of the issue during the interview. Question number 7. What is deep learning and how does it contrast with other machine learning algorithms? So basically, in this question, they want like difference between the deep learning and machine learning algorithms. Basically, if I'm talking about like deep learning is a subset of the machine learning. Okay, so in machine learning, we are getting like linear regression, logistic regression, decision tree, support vector machine, this type of algorithms. But whenever we have to talk about the deep learning, so in a deep learning, we have to get some neural networks, artificial neural networks, the back propagation neural network, recurrent neural network, convolution neural network. So that type of neural network we are getting. So basically, in this question, the interviewer just want to know like what is the difference between the deep learning and the machine learning algorithm capability, and what are the algorithm will come with the deep learning and what are the coming with the machine learning. So this just basic relationship between machine learning and deep learning they want to know from this question. Question number 8: how is the decision tree pruned? So again, this question is very important aspect to define the interview. Like again, from this type of question, they can decide to you like you had select or not. Because again, pruned is a very important word in a machine learning. Pruned is represent with the overfitting. So pruning is what happened in a decision tree when a branches that have a weak predictive power or the removed in order to some reproduce the complexity of the model and increase the predictive accuracy of the decision tree model. And again, the pruning is represent with the overfitting. So that's why if your decision tree are going with the overfitting, so that's not look good. Also, underfitting is again not look good. So that's why the pruning can help happen bottom up and top down with approaches such as the reduce the error pruning and cost complexity pruning. Also here if I'm talking about some more explanation, so you can also ask them like reduce the error pruning is the perhaps the simplest version and replace each node if doesn't decrease the predictive accuracy, keep it pruned, like keep it going with the overfitting. While simple, this heuristic actually comes pretty close to an approach that would optimize for the maximize accuracy. So you at the same time you have to go with the overfitting, and with the overfitting you have to go with the maximize the accuracy. This approach will help you whenever you are not getting some proper solution with the decision tree, like it's going with the underfitting or the regularization like that. Question number 9: which is more important to you, model accuracy or the model performance? Basically, they don't want to know from your side like what is important, model accuracy or the model performance. Basically, the correct answer is the model performance. But in this question, they taste your grasp of the nonsense of machine learning performance. Like machine learning interview question often look towards the details. Okay, that's why they are asking you the question based upon this thing, like what is the main important thing, are there model accuracy or the model performance. So the correct answer is the model performance. So if the model performance will good, so automatically accuracy will good, and if accuracy will not good, but still if model performance are having the more weightage in this particular question. So well, it is everything to do with how model accuracy is only subset of the model performance, because accuracy is the one part of the performance. Okay, performance it's based upon the accuracy and error. If accuracy is not good, but if error is still less, so that's why the performance is good, because it depends upon the in every environment or every data sets or every problem statement. So it's everything for individual are there. So that's why sometimes they are trying to misleading you during the interview. So they are basically test your gaps and brain again and again in this type of question. So it's not based upon the machine learning; it is based upon your brain testing. Also, in this question, you can also give them one type of the example, like if you want to detect the fraud in a massive data set with a sample of millions of data sets, and more accurate model would most likely to predict no fraud at all if only a vast minority of cases were fraud. However, this would be useless for a predictive model and a model designed to find a fraud, as that asserted there was no fraud at all. So what are the questions like this will help you to demonstrate that you understood the model accuracy is not be all and all of the model performance, because in model performance there is more parameter are there. So that's why I already told you, like based upon this type of example, you can ask them to, like, you are having good knowledge about the algorithms, because at then they want to identify you are having good knowledge about the algorithm is not, and that type of things you can represent with just and only for the example. Okay, if you can provide some good examples, so they are getting the idea. Yeah, you are having some good grasp on the concept of the algorithm. So that's how you have to deal with this type of question. Question number 10: how would you handle an imbalanced data set? So basically, if I'm talking about the machine learning as well as this question is very important according to the data scientist interview as well, as because in data scientist interview this type of question is very coming like that, because it's a very common question, like how would you handle imbalanced data set, because you have to good experience with the data cleaning things, also the data analysis and data visualization. This type of things is very important whenever you have to more connect with this type of question. So an imbalanced data set is when you have, or for example, like classification test, and the 19% of the data is one class, and the another second class data is all just only coming like around 10% of error. So that's why you have to deal with the how to you can good deal with the imbalanced data set. So for basically there is 3 point is that, like, collect more data to even the imbalance in the data set. Okay, if you are having imbalanced data set, still you are you have to try to get some more data set if it is still imbalance is there. Okay, because once you are having some more imbalanced data, so you can find out some patterns in the imbalance things. Okay, so that's why the collect more data is provide you with some good things. That's why resample the data set to correct the imbalances. And the third point is that try a different algorithm altogether on your data set. That's how you can also provide give the answer to them. And in basically in that, what is the important here is that you have to keen sense for what damage an unbalanced data set can cause and how to balance. Like, see, if you can apply all the things, like from the different libraries like NumPy or Pandas, there is something techniques are there. But if you can apply all the things, but still you are facing an imbalance things in your data set. At the same time, you have to think about how you can balance this one. So that is the important point in this question. Question number 11: name an example where ensemble technique might be useful. So you have to provide one of the examples that will use for the ensemble technique. Basically, ensemble technique is used for the ADA boost or the random forest algorithm. This type of algorithm are using the ensemble technique, bagging, boosting, ADA boost with the random forest. So these all are related to the ensemble technique. So ensemble technique uses a combination of the learning algorithm to optimize the better predictive performance, and they typically reduce the overfitting in models. Basically, because if you are using a random forest, because in decision tree you are getting overfitting or pruning. But if you are using random forest, so it's a very rare chance to getting some overfitting, that type of thing. And also make the model robust, unlikely to influence by small changes in a training data. Basically, you are not spending some more time with this question. Just within 30 seconds or 40 seconds, you can give it this answer in very basic form. Okay. In a machine learning interview, it's not look like that all the answer you have to provide with very depth. Okay. If you can think like what are the answer is having very weightage, like if you are facing question based upon the navy base or the decision tree or the support vector machine, you can give it that answer in very depth. But whenever you are getting some answer look like very upper line, like name an example, like they are just only want to know one small example type of things. Okay, so that's why. And some question are based upon the logically think as well. So during the interview you have to think about that, like what are the question are having more value, and what are the question are having some less value, or what are the question are just only for the logical testing trigger page. Next question is the what the kernel trick and how it is useful. So basically this question is coming from the support vector machine technique. Support vector machine is again, it is work for the both like classification as well as the regression. Okay. But kernel trick is a very important part of the support vector machine, because the kernel trick involves the kernel function that can enable to higher dimension spaces without explicitly calculating the coordinates of the point within that dimension. Because in a kernel trick, what we have to do, we have to apply the higher dimensional into the lower dimension, and then we have to solve these things with the help of the kernel trick. Many algorithms can be expressed in terms of the inner product, but using the kernel trick enables to the effectively run algorithm in a high dimensional space with the lower dimensional data. So that's why if you want to work with the input space to the feature space, because if you can see, on a left hand side you are getting some input space, but after applying a kernel you are getting a feature space, and in a feature space the three dimension data can be classified very properly, and that is based upon the decision surface. So that's how the kernel trick is very important. Again, this question is important, so you can go with the depth whenever they are asking this type of questions. Okay, so you have to make knowledge regarding to the which question you have to face properly, and which question you have to face like upper line, like that. So the next question 13 is related to the how do you handle missing or corrupted data in a data set. Basically whenever you want to do this type of thing, basically this type of work can be happen with the libraries like NumPy, pandas are there. And from the NumPy and pandas there is many function is there, like is null, drop na, fill na, and if you want to replace the missing value with the 0 or 1 or some random numbers as well as some the average number, so you can do it like that. So basically you could find a missing or corrupted data in a data set, and either drop those rows or the columns, or decided to replace him with the another value. So multiple ways are there to handle the missing or corrupted data, because this type of question is very basic question are there. Okay, there is 50-50 chance if you are going like a junior machine learning interview for the junior machine learning engineer, so at the same time they are asking you this type of question. But the chance is very less, because this question is related to the very basics or in between basics and intermediate. So sometimes they can ask, or basically in junior machine learning engineering interview, they are always asked this type of question. 14 number question is the which data visualization library do you use, and what are your thoughts on the best data visualization tool? So whenever you are giving this type of answer, so you have to clear the things. Whenever I was working with the Python programming language, so I can go with the Plotly, Matplotlib, as well as I can use the Seaborn, and also I have to work with the couplings as well as. Okay, so if you can talk about, like, I know the Python, so at the same time in a Python you have to know about this core library. Also sometimes they are also asking you the question like what is the use of the Plotly and coupling. So whenever you want to do some geographical representation in a visualization, so you can go with the Plotly and coupling. If you want to do some basic things related to the basic chart, so you can also go with the Seaborn or Matplotlib as well. If at the same time one more question is arising with this type of concept, like they can also ask to you if I want to make it some good plot related to the MATLAB with the Python. So what type of which type of library can help to me? So you can also ask them like Matplotlib is providing you some similar type of the visualization from the MATLAB tool. MATLAB is a software tool that is very vast using for the electrical or the computer engineer. That's why Matplotlib library have their own weightages are there. And if you can talk about, like, I know already the R language as well. So in R, the ggplot2 library and also the plotly is a very important library there. So basically, if you can ask, like, I know the R language as well, so you can use the ggplot2 and plotly. But in Python, you have to provide some 3-4 libraries. Basically, what are the other interviews are also coming. So they are also asking like C1 and Matplotlib, because C1 and Matplotlib is the basic libraries are there. But if you can ask them, like, I already know the plotly and coupling, so that will make it a weightage type of thing. And also related to the data visualization, they are also asking to you, like, if you know any particular type of data visualization tool. So if you know the proper the tools, you can ask them, like, yes, in a data visualization there is also the Tableau is the one type of data visualization tool is there. Also Power BI is there. So this type of software is also used for the data visualization. But if you know properly, then you can deliberate that words. Otherwise, you can't talk about the Tableau or the Power BI, because sometimes the interviewers are taken whatever the answer you are providing to them, so they can collect some words from them. And then again, the question was starting on that. So that's why don't play with some more words in that part. Whatever the things you already know, you can just only discuss about that part as well. Question number 15. What do you think is the most valuable data in our business? Again, very, very important question is this. You have to again provide some good time to given this answer. Okay. You can take some time to give this answer, because and also you can go with very depth in this answer, because it is again a very important and very defining question is there, like, you can select or not. Okay. So, like, how you can provide this answer, like this question like to really try to test your on two dimension, like your two dimension thinking, like what is the positive things and what are the negative things are there. Okay. So the first is your knowledge of the business and the industry itself, as well as your understanding of the business model. And the second is the whether you can pick how to correlate the data is to business outcome in general, and then how you apply that thinking to your context about the company. So that's why this is the both the things are different, and based upon these both things, they are trying to evaluate to you, like how according to the business perspective you are given the answer, and how you can given the answer on the second approach, like correlated data on a business outcomes in general. So that's why again it is very important question.